Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I use the amazing Lenormand deck. So have a look at the links that I have for you so you can explore and master this amazing deck. Welcome to another deck review. I am happy to be doing one. As you know, I've been accumulating a few new decks because I felt it was time to make a change and to refresh a little bit the look and feel of our readings. So I have today a very special deck, or I think it is a very special deck, and it is called the Blink of an Eye Lenormand. It is designed by Loreen Muzik. I think that's a pen name at the divinationapothecary.com. So I got this off Etsy, and this is just the thank you card with a note from the author. And obviously there's an eye here, and there is an eye on the back of the cards. So this is the Blink of an Eye Lenormand. And I thought it was a really interesting deck. It comes in a simple plastic box, but I think there's an option to get a pouch with it. And even though it's not a particularly attractive or magical looking box, I do think it is quite functional, and I like it because the plastic is really sturdy. There's a smoky plastic all around, but then the main frame is actually see-through plastic, so you do see the cards. And so I think it's pretty functional, and it pops into a closure, and I think that's great for protecting the cards, and it's great for portability. So that's for the box. Let's put this aside, and this is for the thank you card. And there isn't anything else in the deck. There is just a thank you card and the deck itself. So let's put this aside as well. Now, I've got the cards divided into two groups, the cards and the significator cards. And the reason is because Loreen offers 6 of them, so 3 options. And we've got 2 black people from an older time. So I'm thinking maybe this is looking to me like 1920s to maybe, no, I don't think 60s, more around the 1920s. So I thought it was really charming. And I just think it's an amazing interpretation, and it's so nice to see it in here. There's another pair. I think these are the 2 that go together. This is maybe more around 40s, 50s, possibly. And then a third pair, these 2. So this is probably a bit older. I don't know if I've got the woman and man matched together from these. I'm not so sure, but I think they are really interesting. They're an awesome interpretation, and it's great to have these options. You will also notice that they are against a gray background, and that there is the name of the card. So she doesn't have them as man and woman, she has them as masculine and feminine on all of them. And they are on a gray card, a gray background. So the significator cards are the ones that are on a gray background. The other cards have a variety of colors, and at first I wasn't sure what was the logic behind the color coding of the cards, because if you sift through the cards, there's one card that's yellow, and then there's 2, 3 that are green, and then we're back to yellow for 4 and 5, and then 6, 7, and 8 are red, and then we're back to 1 card. So if it is about every 3 cards, every 2 cards, that's not the logic. It turns out, I believe, the logic is the effect of the card: positive, negative, or neutral. And what we'll do is we'll take advantage of this, and after I go through the cards one by one, we'll categorize them in terms of these colors and look at the logic behind them and see if they are the positive cards, the challenging cards, or the neutral cards. So a really interesting take on this. Also, on the cards that are not significator cards, we have a word that describes the card. Now, it is not my preference to do this because a single keyword can be limiting, and I think it's important to allow your imagination to expand and also to allow for different keywords depending on the cards nearby. So this is not my favorite part of the deck, but I have to say that I love the designs, I love the minimalism, and I love the character. And that's the reason why I decided to pick it up. So let's go ahead and look at the cards one by one. So this is the rider. It's on a yellow background. And we've got the number at the top and the heart, which is the pip, at the bottom. But notice that the author removes the pip number, and she does this for all of the cards. So she just puts the suit but omits the card number. And so the rider is an arrival card, but it could also be a parting card. It could also be going, like, taking off and going somewhere. Arrival would be in terms of a messenger. So this is the rider. I think it's a fun, really fun image here. This is the clover, very clear. Notice that the images are in black and white and grayscale. So that is a very different take also on the design of the cards that I think is really interesting. The clover, very clear. And I'm also noticing that around every one of those illustrations, there's like a few stars around it. So that's the clover. Here's the ship, very classical and also very clear. And the ship is journey. Clover is opportunity. It's also luck. So again, I'm not a fan of the keywords because I think they can be a bit limiting. But here's the ship, and certainly the ship is a journey. The house, private life, or it can be home, family, and a lot of things. Very clear representation here. And here's the tree, also really fun and grayscale. There are the words Auto Paris on all of her cards, and even on the thank you card. I'm not sure what these refer to, but I could look it up a bit later. Maybe if you know, let me know. Again, a very nice tree here on the yellow background. These are the clouds. We've got the light and dark, and I think all of the illustrations, they sort of go over past the frame, which also has like an older style. It's so fun. I really like them. And there's a bit of rain here, so there is this light side and dark side that is typical of the clouds. The clouds is confusion, according to the author. I skipped the tree one. The tree is well-being. Here is the snake, and the snake is treacherous, and I think again it's very clear on the card. I like this kind of minimalism. I find it easy to look at and easy to connect with. This is the coffin. Instead of the coffin, she's got a skull, which is an ending or loss, very clear as well. So that's a different interpretation. Here is the flowers, and she calls this an offering. So a nice keyword, but again, not the only keyword, but an interesting one. Very nice cards here, a bunch of flowers, also in grayscale. Here is the scythe, which she refers to as danger, and again, an old style looking scythe. I really like these designs. Here is the whip, which she refers to as discord. Very clear, nice handle, bit of an unusual handle here. Here is the birds, which she calls noise or static. I'm not sure if it's static, but it is noisy. The birds tend to be a bit noisy. And there's two of them, which is classical, because the birds tend to represent pairs. Here is a child, and this looks like an old photograph out of a 40s, 50s album, or maybe a bit later. And the keywords here are innocence and the new. This is the fox, and it is a card of manipulation, according to the author. It's unusual to find two foxes on the fox card, but we've got two in here. And here is the bear, which is protection. Pretty clear, this one. Here is the star, which is guidance, but also all around wish fulfillment. So a really nice star with a few around it. Here is the stork, and she calls the stork the card of change, which it is. And here is the dog, which is a card of assistance, often someone helpful. This is actually the statue of a dog, not an actual dog. This is the tower. This looks like London Tower to me, and it is the reference is to an institution. The tower is one of those layered cards. It's a mute card, and it can represent a few things as well. This is the garden, and she refers to it as the public or events, and it is a fountain. So fountains are found in gardens, so that's probably where it comes from. This is the mountain, which she refers to as an obstacle, although it can also be associated with places abroad. And this is the roads, which she calls decisions, and what you have is a whole bunch of signs that point in all sorts of different directions, and it has to do with the choices and the decisions that we make. So a really interesting interpretation of the road. Here is the mice, which she refers to as erosion, and we've got 3 of them, which is a card of multiplicity, as opposed to the birds, which tends to represent pairs. And here is the heart, which she refers to as passion. This is an interesting heart, an object. It sounds like a bottle, you know, with this being a top that you can remove. This is the ring, a very clear symbol. Well, it's not really a symbol, very clear object, and it is the card of commitment. And this is the book, which she refers to as the card of the unknown. It's also about knowledge. And messages, or the letter, with a really fun typewriter. This is the lilies, which she refers to as harmony. That's probably a good term for, a good keyword, for the lily, but I think it also works well with the tree. The lily has an element of maturity and aging and a sense of establishment. It's on the whiter side here. This is the sun, which she refers to as vitality, and this is the moon. So they're a bit close to each other, but I think the moon is kind of clear. It's also kind of bigger than the sun. There are some rays around the sun, which we sort of see, and I think the moon is clearer. And the moon is recognition. It's often a card of appreciation. And this is the key, which is a card of solutions. It's a nice key, like an older key, but not a clock key. So also nice character that goes with the rest of the cards. And this is the fish, and it is the card of abundance. And here is the anchor, which she refers to as goal achieved. It's also very much a card of staying put and stability. And here is the cross, which is a card of burden. So really nice designs. You might not agree with me. I think most of the time people maybe like something that is not as silhouette-like. That's the reason I called my deck the Silhouettes deck. So I think it's a really interesting set of cards. I'm not a fan of the keywords, but I really like the character and you know the style of it all, and the choice of illustrations is really fun. Now, like I said, she's got them color-coded into red, reddish, green, and yellow. And what these are a reference to whether the cards are positive, negative, or neutral. So I'm just going to take a second to organize them in their color, and then let's look at what she considers as positive, negative, or neutral, and we might take away some good lessons as well. Okay, so here is our 3 piles. We've got the red ones, the green ones, and the yellow ones. So just by looking at the thickness, we can tell that the thickest pile is the yellow one. I don't know if this is going to come through so well, but I'll just give it a try. So the yellow one is thicker than the green, and it is thicker than the red. I think this comes clearly. And then let's briefly look at the green and red. They're sort of equal. The green is feels a bit thicker. So I can run a count a bit later. So let's look at what are the cards in each of these piles. Let's start with the red one here. This is looking like the challenging cards. And I think that's pretty obvious. It stands out really clearly. So the challenging cards are the clouds, the snake. This is the coffin. It can be neutral. It can just represent an ending. An ending is not always challenging, but it does have like a more depressive kind of energy. This is the scythe, which is often a card of danger, but I have to say that the scythe can be neutral and it can be positive because it suggests a release. And this is the whip, which is the most challenging card of the deck. We have the fox and the mountain, which is often a card of obstacle. And in my dictionary, I see the mountain as a bit more on the neutral side. We also have the mice, and we have the cross. So these are all pretty challenging cards, and I think we all agree on this in a general way. Now let's look at the positive cards. These are the green pile, and we've got the clover, the ship, the flowers or the bouquet, and the star, the heart, the sun and moon, and the key, and the fish and anchor. So these are some really bright cards, and I think we all agree that these cards are positive. Now let's look at the biggest pile. It is the largest, the thickest pile, and we've got a lot more cards in here, somewhat more cards. So we've got the rider, which I think is generally positive. We have the house, which I also think is generally positive. We have the tree, which I think is also a nice card. We have the birds, which can be a bit negative. Actually, the birds can be a bit of an anxiety, nervousness kind of energy. So I think it's fair to say they're on the neutral side because they can go both ways. The child is a neutral card according to the author. I consider the child positive. The bear is a neutral card. The stork as well. And this is the dog, which is generally positive. The tower, I think that's more on the neutral side. Also the garden, also the road, the ring. Although the ring would be really positive for a relationship reading or anything about commitment. So if you're asking something like, is this a good relationship, and you get the ring on its own, let's say, then it would be a really nice message. So it's, yes, the cards have an effect on their own, but the combinations and the context can also guide the effects of the cards. So it's important to keep this in mind. The book, I would say this is neutral, and also the letter, and also the lily. So in fact, dividing the cards in this way is a very good starting point for learning. So this sounds like a good starter deck, but I would want you to expand on the keywords in order to decide which one you feel carries the essence of the cards for you. But I think in terms of the effects, we all sort of agree what the effects of the cards are. And it's a very good starting point to get a feel for the cards and get a feel for the reading. And I think having them color-coded, helps with the layout. So suppose we have, let's say I'm gonna shuffle them quickly. We have 6 cards. Let me pick something else. And, they're sort of color-coded like this. Suppose you have a layout like this and you are still learning the effects of the card, and you get these color codes. They can be helpful for you as a prompt to think about the overall energy of the spread. You have 3 neutral cards, 2 positive ones, and 1 challenging card. So as a starting point, it can help you with getting an overall feel for the reading. In this case, it's a bit more on the neutral side. I think the challenging card balances out a little bit the bright cards, especially that it's on the right hand side here, which is associated with the future or later parts of the reading. In my weekly forecasts, if you tune in, you would know that I do a 3x2 a lot of the time, and the right hand side is associated with later or future aspects of the reading. So having this challenging card here has that weight on it, but we also have bright cards and also neutral cards that help reduce the impacts of the clouds. And also the clouds itself is not all that challenging. And actually this is an important point to keep in mind, is that there are positive, negative, and neutral cards, but also some cards are more positive than others, and some cards are more challenging than others. For example, the snake is more challenging than the coffin, and the whip can be more challenging than the snake. So there is like a range, if you like, or some kind of a range of nuances in terms of how positive or how challenging is a card. And I think that as you grow as a reader, it's important to refine your understanding of the cards in these ways, and also to appreciate the importance of combinations and the questions. So this is an overall very interesting deck with a lot of interesting features, at least I think so. I'm very much a fan of the designs. I think they stand out well on camera, and I think the character and the choice of illustrations is really fun for most of the cards. I think my least favorite card would be the fox. I would have liked to see it on its own as a single fox. I think that's easier, and everything else is just really fun, and I love the grayscale against the color, and I also I think it's just overall the character with the eye, it's just really nice and easy to look at. Again, I'm not too fond of the keywords, and maybe I would have liked the design to be bigger, although the cards are not so big, but they're easy to handle and the quality is fine. But overall, I just think the illustrations are really fun, and I think the significator cards are also fun, and they really they sort of anchor the overall design in this older time, like 40s, maybe before, a little bit later. So a really nice deck as far as I'm concerned. Let me know how you like it. Let me know if you would pick it up. Let me know if you think this is a keeper for us in our weekly and monthly readings. I look forward to your thoughts and feedback. So thank you for tuning into this deck review. As always, I appreciate it. And until next time, take very good care of yourself.